written production of the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated and is intended for the sole purpose of informing our Recreation Center members. Any duplication, copying, transmission, broadcast, or use, including electronic and social media, is strictly prohibited without the prior written consent from the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated. Thank you for watching.
I'd like to call the meeting to order. Would you please rise and join me in the pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to the Board of Directors meeting today. I'm Dale Lair, President of the 2022 Board of Directors. This is a regular meeting of the Recreation Centers of Sun City. It's audio and video recorded by RCSC management and staff. Please be advised that there should be no recording of this meeting by any individual. So if you would be so kind as to check your cellular phones and electronic devices and ensure that they are on the silent mode. I would like to introduce our timekeeper, Tracy Bussabarger. Did I get it right? Oh! Okay, parliamentarian Ray Chornecki. Our management staff, Bill Cook, General Manager. Kevin McCurdy, Director of Finance. Mike Woodprue is not here. Chris Herring, Director of Operations. Brian Duthu, Director of Golf and Grounds. Marcia Johnson, our Corporate Executive Coordinator. And Teresa Serino, Director of Events and Entertainment, up in the booth. I also would like to recognize Ellen Kleinhans and Michael Crawford, audio-visual engineers. Hopefully I didn't miss anybody. I'd like to take this time to welcome all of you who are here for the first time. If this is your first time attending a RCSC board meeting, welcome. First item of business is a roll call of voting members. Secretary Lanevsky.
President Lair.
Here.
Vice President Agee.
Good morning.
Treasurer Akins.
Good morning.
I'm here. I'm Alan Lanevsky. Director Collins.
Hello, everyone.
Director Fimmel.
Good morning.
Director McAdam.
Good morning.
Director Nowakowski.
Good morning.
Director Wilson.
Here.
Madam President, we have a quorum.
Thank you. The minutes of the March 31st, 2022 meeting were posted for the director's review. Are there any corrections or additions to the minutes at this time? There being no corrections or additions to the minutes of the March 31st, 2022 meeting, they are approved. Thank you. Next item of business is the treasurer's report. I would now like to ask if there's any questions on the treasurer's report. There being no questions or additions, the treasurer's report has been filed for audit. Next on the business is management report. Are there any questions or comments on the management report? Director McAdam.
Thank you, Madam President. I have a question about an item under building and infrastructure projects on page 2. Under the Mountain View Rec Center, phases 1 and 2, it says that a revised proposal from CCBG has been requested. I'm just curious, does this include revisions from our side, or what kind of revisions are we talking about here?
Madam President, Director McAdam, no, this is for the detailed design. So now we're going through the negotiation phase now that the moratorium is up. So nothing hasn't changed in terms of what has been approved. We are just now going into the detailed design. So that's the contract that we're negotiating. I'm actually trying to negotiate lower pricing on it.
Okay, so just a question. So in the wording, when it says a revised proposal has been requested, actually, we're not talking about a revised proposal. We're talking about a detailed design plan has been proposed.
Correct, yes, yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Director Collins.
General Manager Cook, I have a quick question. On the Sundial Recreation Center, we have on hold a dehumidifier.
Yes.
My only question is, running with the higher humidity levels, are we doing any damage on the interior of our building?
Director Collins, no. We've actually taken a look at that, and we're fairly confident that we can run on the equipment as the new plan design. So we should not have any issues there.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions, comments? The management report has been accepted. Thank you, General Manager Bill Cook. Committee reports. Would like to recognize Director Sue Wilson, Chair of the Bowling Committee.
Thank you, President Lair. On behalf of the Bowling Committee, I recommend that the remodeling of the restrooms behind lanes 3 and 4 at the Lakeview Bowling Center be considered in the 2023 budgeting process.
Director Wilson, as maker of this motion, do you wish to speak first in favor of its adoption?
Yes. Last year, the Bowling Committee actually brought this forth, and it was too late because we had already gone through the budgeting process for this particular year. This particular bathroom has not been remodeled, and they seem to have an odor problem with it. And so it was just to try to update and get it so that it is better for our visitors as well as our members.
Any other questions or comments? I have a question. Isn't it typical, General Manager Cook, that, if there's any kinds of infrastructure or things that need to be taken care of, that it's put in by the manager of that area?
So, Madam President, yes, if we have issues that have been brought up by members through comment cards, et cetera, and, I would expect that our Director of Bowling or our Building and Infrastructure, if there's any work orders that have been put through and we see a common trend there, then of course we would definitely address that.
Okay, so doing it this way, we're not superseding your process by any, it says to be considered for the 2023.
No, it's not, because it's just saying to consider it, so it's just basically, and the clubs do provide,
Input.
requests for budgetary type items going into the next budget cycle. So no, this does not circumvent. It's just asking that we consider it.
Okay, very
Madam
good.
President.
Director Collins.
My only question, do we know how much this project is going to cost?
Director Collins, we have no idea at this point, as we have not done any type of analysis, but I can tell you that in looking at the redo of the restrooms at Lakeview, I believe, and Chris, you can correct me on this, I think we were over 200,000 on that, right? So I would imagine it's going to be in that range, 200,000 to 300,000 potentially.
So do we have any other projects that can go with it so we can use PIF funds?
Well, if it comes in at 300,000, then we could potentially use PIF.
Right, that's what I mean. Is there something else there? In case we're a little bit short, we can use our PIF funds rather than general funding.
Well, if it should be related to the same project. We can't really combine projects, but we can take a look at that. I don't know what the cost is going to come in at, and quite honestly, I don't know that, we can look at, you've heard that there's an odor issue, so maybe it's something else that we can look at and not do a complete reconstruct.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Director Nowakowski.
I know our general manager said it doesn't impact them, but this is the second item that's coming through that kind of, in my opinion, circumvents the budget process. We have another item that comes in after this asking for specialized equipment. Now, here we are. Not all the clubs are represented by committee. And so by this coming to the board and the board approving it or telling the staff to include it in next year's budget circumvents some of that process. And I have an objection to that. If we're going to trust what the management team is supposed to do, then we let them do that and look at it as the budget process. If not, then we should lower the limit to what the general manager is allowed to spend on projects, so we, the board, can determine what should be on the budget and what isn't. I just have a conceptual argument and a disagreement with this process.
So Madam President, Director Nowakowski, I would agree with you with respect to the fitness equipment, because that is an actual direct instruction to actually spend those funds without us doing any due diligence. However, this request for the restrooms gives us the freedom to, either make a change that may not, require an entire reconstruct, or we could say, it's not going to be in the budget. And at that point, then it goes to the Budget and Finance Committee, and then they can make that decision if they feel that it's something that is absolutely necessary. So I believe that the two are somewhat different.
Yeah.
But I appreciate your comments. Thank you.
Madam Chair? I agree with you, Bill, except for one minor detail. The board has approved this project is the answer that the staff is going to go with. The board's approved it. So why should we not do it? So again, conceptually, I just have an issue with it. Thank you.
Just for clarification, the motion does say to be considered in the 2023, and I think that is the key difference.
Yes.
Madam President.
Director Akins.
I also want to clarify that bowling is not a club. All right, it's coming from the bowling committee. It's not a club. And also, this may be a health hazard if we don't look at this, because we need to look and find out why we have that odor and why the odor is coming through. So there's a lot of things that should be considered with this, and it is not a club. I wanted to clarify that.
All right, any other discussion? Questions? Okay. The motion before you, on behalf of the bowling committee, is the recommendation that the remodeling of restrooms behind lanes 3 and 4 at Lakeview Bowling Center be considered in the 2023 budgeting process. Secretary Lineski, will you please take the roll call vote?
Vice President Agi.
Yes.
Treasurer Akins.
Yes.
Director Collins.
Yes.
Director Fimmel.
Yes.
Director McAdam.
No.
Director Nowakowski.
No.
Director Wilson.
Yes.
I vote yes. President Lear.
Yes.
Vote is 7-2 in the affirmative.
Okay, motion passes. It's first reading. I'd like to recognize again Secretary Wilson, Chair of the Club Organization Committee, COC.
Okay, Director Wilson.
Director Wilson, what did I say?
Secretary.
Oh, sorry.
On behalf of the COC committee, I move to amend board policy number 12 titled Chartered Clubs, section 8 titled Club Records and Reports as follows, and it's adding club login credentials for the 990 filing must be provided to the club's office.
All right, Director Wilson, as maker of this motion, do you wish to speak first in favor of its adoption?
Yes, the reason for this is because a lot of clubs will have a treasurer that leaves and may be disgruntled, and therefore they will not share the password and the login information in order for the club to file the 990s. And so it becomes a process that they have to go back in and reapply for this. What we're looking at doing is clubs would put this in a sealed envelope, and that sealed envelope would be kept in the safe. It would not be used by RCSC for any reason other than if the treasurer does not have access, the new treasurer does not have access to that the next year, then it can be pulled out and then they can go from there. It is not to be used for anything else.
Okay. Any discussion, questions?
Go ahead.
I have a quick question for the general manager or the finance director. And that is, I saw an email from somebody talking about tax consequences. Are there any tax consequences to any of this regarding personal liability or anything like that that you're aware of?
Madam President, Director Lineski, I am not aware of any tax consequences.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair.
Director Nowakowski?
Director Wilson stated that there's going to be some procedure that's going to be done that, but it's not anywhere within the policy that we're changing. So can we add that in the next read of what we're going to do and how we're going to do it? Right now, it's open that says it doesn't give any leeway or anything else. It says the clubs provide it. Well, if it's going to be in a sealed envelope and it's going to be kept under these conditions, let's put it into the policy.
Any other discussion?
You have,
Go.
Madam President, Director Nowakowski, so I would recommend that we not put in operational procedures into the bylaws, because if we do that and we set that precedent, then their bylaws would continue to get larger and larger. The bylaws are created by the board, and then myself and the staff should operationalize that. And of course, we would get input from you and make sure that you understand what that process is. We would make sure that from a security perspective that we're meeting any type of security type related issues with respect to that. So I would recommend that we not do that.
President.
Director Agee, Vice
I
President
also
Agee.
read, I believe it was in the email, that the person that is filing the 990 has to use their own personal information to create the login. So, doesn't that really make, I don't understand then how you differentiate this 990 belongs to a club that person doesn't necessarily own, they are a member of. So it just seems confusing to me. Okay, then we're taking this login information, so I agree with Director Nowakowski that, does this leave a former club member on the hook for a 980? I'm not sure I understand what we're doing there.
So,
I don't believe that's.
Madam President, Director Agee, quite honestly, I don't know what the procedure is for an individual club to log into the IRS website. They can certainly use generic credentials that aren't associated with any of their other, personal type, credentials. And that way it's, you can use Sun City 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Club X, and then the credentials are generic.
Okay, I'm just thinking maybe we should ask.
Because I believe the address is associated with the address of where the club is within RCSC property.
Okay.
So it's not a personal home address or anything to that.
Okay.
Director Wilson.
nature.
In checking with a couple of clubs, they've said, no, they did not have to do any of that. All they had to do is their name and the password, and that was it.
Okay.
Okay, any further discussion?
Madam President, I would just say that Mr. Cook has said bylaws a couple of times, and I think what we're trying to change here is a policy.
Correct.
Just wanted to clarify.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion? The motion before you on behalf of the COC committee is the recommendation to amend Board Policy Number 12, Section 8, as discussed. Secretary Lineski, will you please take the roll call vote?
Vice President Agee.
Yes.
Treasurer Akins.
Yes?
Director Collins.
Yes.
Director Fimmel.
Yes,
Director McAdam.
Yes.
Director Nowakowski.
Yes.
Director Wilson.
Yes.
I have Secretary vote yes. President Lair.
Yes.
9-0.
Motion passes. First reading. Okay, somebody's been very busy. The chair would like to recognize Director Wilson, Chair of the Insurance Committee.
Okay, I move based on the insurance committee's and RCSC's recommendations to approve the 2022-2023 insurance renewal proposal for the recreation centers of Sun City Incorporated. The renewal proposal includes the same insurance coverages, carriers, and terms conditions per RCSC's expiring coverage with an increase of 14.5%.
Is there any discussion? Okay, the motion before you on behalf of the Insurance Committee and RCSC recommendation is to approve the 2022-2023 insurance renewal proposal for the recreation centers of Sun City as previously written. Secretary Lenowski.
President Agi.
Yes.
Treasurer Akins.
Yes.
Director Collins.
Yes.
Director Fimmel.
Yes.
Director McAdam.
Yes.
Director Noakowski.
Yes.
Director Wilson.
Yes.
I vote yes. President Lair.
Yes.
9-0 for it.
Motion passes. First reading. Okay, I would like to recognize Director Wilson, Chair of the Insurance Committee.
I promise you, this is my last one.
Okay.
I move, based on the insurance committee's and RCSC's insurance broker's recommendation, that RCSC decline terrorism risk insurance. The terrorism-related coverage is optional for commercial property and casualty created by the federal government, coverages except workers' compensation. Terrorism Risk Insurance Act, known as TRIA, was initially created by the federal government after 9/11/2001 attack on American soil. The act allows the federal government to share monetary losses with insurers on commercial property and casualty losses due to a terrorist attack sponsored by foreign interest. For TRIA coverage to apply, a terrorist event would have to be declared by the Secretary of State, which has not happened in the United States since this act was passed by Congress in 2002. RCSC has rejected TRIA on applicable coverages during the past several years.
Director Wilson, as maker of the motion, do you wish to speak first in favor of its adoption?
No.
All right, is there any discussion, questions? Hearing none, the motion before you on behalf of the Insurance Committee and RCSC's insurance broker's recommendation is to decline the terrorism risk insurance. Secretary Lenowski, please take the roll call vote.
Vice President Agi.
Yes.
Treasurer Akins.
Yes.
Director Collins.
Yes.
Director Fimmel.
Yes.
Director McAdam.
Yes.
Director Noakowski.
Yes.
Director Wilson.
Yes.
I vote yes. President Lair.
Yes.
Passes 9-0.
Motion passes first reading. Okay, the next item of business is the second reading of a motion on behalf of the Long Range Planning Committee. Secretary Lenowski.
On behalf of the Long Range Planning Committee, I move that the RCSC Board of Directors trial the modern fitness approach equipment in at least one RCSC fitness facility. This would include the purchase of live fitness video console equipment, and we're changing a couple words here to say or its equivalent. Specifically, 2 treadmills, 2 ellipticals, 2 stationary bikes, 3 recumbent bikes with a maximum budget of $125,000. The maximum budget of $125,000 was also added.
Okay, Secretary Lenowski, as maker of the motion, do you wish to speak in favor of its adoption?
No, Madam President, I think we had a thorough discussion of it last time.
Okay. Ms. Johnson? Could you read the names of members who signed up to speak on this motion only?
When you're called to,
Madam Chair, do we need a second for the motion?
No.
No?
okay, when I call your name and you come to the podium, please state your name and member number, and most importantly, whether you're speaking for or against the motion. Each speaker will have 3 minutes for comments as indicated by the light on the stage. When all names are read, oh, I guess I don't read that. The first name is Christy Svensson.
Good morning. Christy Shanson, 137489. And I wish to thank Director Lenowski and the Long Range Planning Committee for pushing this through because it is very necessary. My advice regarding equipment placement is that you ask Dick and Jane Fournier for their advice, or Lori Ellingson for her advice for where it should be placed. And I want to say that I used to brag that I go to the gym every day. But my brother's name is Jim and my son's name is Jim. So, but I did used to go to the gym every day, and I will appreciate the AV assistance with it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bill Pearson?
Bill Pearson, 133438. I'm speaking in favor of the motion. Little historical backstory. In 2012, while I was serving on the board up there, there was an effort to get rid of committees to some degree. The Legal Affairs Committee had been gone by then. There was discussion about getting rid of the Long Range Planning Committee because they had finished their work, which struck me odd. And the Entertainment Committee was going to go by the by. I wrote a long treatise to the board with a header that said, "A committee is a group of the unprepared appointed by the unwilling to do the unnecessary." Interesting comment, who was by Fred Allen, whoever Fred was. And I wrote it in an effort to get the board to understand that committees historically in Sun City have played an incredibly important role in the decision-making process. As you all know, with 32,500 members, there's a lot of people with a lot of expertise in this community that for years and years and years have volunteered their services and helped shape the place we're in today. As I saw committees going away, I was terrified that we were losing that ability to reach into the community's expertise and use them as our base for the decision-making process. This proposal from the Long Range Planning Committee came with a lot of effort by Steve and others, and it deserves to move forward. It deserves to move forward, and I would hope you would do that, because ultimately, if the recommendations, and that's all they are ignored or set aside or just become meaningless, people won't serve any longer. There's no point in sitting in a room doing something when no one listens to you. As my time winds up, I'll remind you only of one thing that's in the bylaws. You have one employee who answers to you as a board. Even though the RCSC has 440 or whatever the number is these days, one employee, that's the general manager. He works for you. He works at your direction for 55 years. The RCSC, whatever the iterations were prior to the RCSC in 1972, they would listen to information from the general manager, but that never was the determining factor in the decisions they make. Support the decision of the Long Range Planning Committee, buy the trial equipment, see how it works, and the community will be better for it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam President, everyone who signed up has spoken.
Okay. Any other discussion on the board? Secretary, it is moved that on behalf of the Long Range Planning Committee that RCSC Board of Directors trial modern fitness approach equipment in at least one RCSC fitness center. This would include the purchase of Life Fitness video console equipment or its equivalent, specifically 2 treadmills, 2 ellipticals, 2 stationary bikes, and 2 recumbent bikes with a maximum budget of $125,000. Secretary Lenevsky, would you please take the vote?
Mr. President Nagy.
Yes.
Treasurer Akins.
No.
Director Collins.
Yes.
Director Fimmel.
Yes.
Dr. McAdam.
Yes.
Director Nowakowski.
No.
Director Wilson.
Yes.
I vote yes. President Lair.
Yes.
The vote is 7-2 to 2 in the affirmative.
Okay, this passes. It's second and final reading. Ms. Johnson, please read the names of the cardholders who signed up to speak on new business items only.
Madam President, no one signed up.
Wow. All right. The first item of business is a motion to amend the bylaws, Article 5, titled Board of Directors, Section 5, titled Meetings of the Board. Vice President Ege.
Madam President, I move to amend, as you just stated, bylaws Article 5, titled Board of Directors, Section 5, titled Meetings of the Board, as follows. So in essence, instead of reading the whole thing, the purpose of the motion is to reorder the identities of the groups associated. So it is currently listed as member/board exchanges, and I would like to reverse.
No, it's currently a board member exchange.
Oh, yeah, you're right. I'm reading too far down on the page here. So anyway, to reverse the order, to read member/board exchanges.
Very good. Vice President Ege, as maker of the motion, do you wish to speak in favor of its adoption?
Madam President, yeah, I mean, we heard at our member board exchange a few weeks ago that that's what the members were in favor of, so I'm certainly in favor of making that change.
Director Wilson.
Don't we need a second?
I
on
second
this one?
it.
Yes, we do.
Thank you.
I'll
Thank
second
you.
it.
Thank you. Thank you, Alan.
Slip up by the president. Okay. Any other discussion?
Madam President,
Director Akins.
I, for a very long time, have been saying board member exchange. And so I do hope that you guys will forgive me if I don't get it, if it takes me a while to switch those words around, because I do understand how you feel about that, and I'm going to try very hard to say member board instead of board member. So if I do slip up, please do not throw darts. Thank you.
Director McAdam.
So I'm completely in agreement with this minor change here that has some significant implications. But I do want to just address something else that as part of this this bylaw, Article 5, Section 5, titled Meetings of the Board, while we're changing the terminology for board member exchanges to member board exchanges, there are no changes here to other items included. And so my question to you, Vice President Ege, would be, can we assume that this is an implicit affirmation of the second paragraph here, that you agree with both individually and corporately that all meetings of the board and member board exchanges, excluding executive sessions, shall be open and video recorded?
Well, I have no intention of changing anything other than the order of the identities of the groups associated with the meeting.
Right. Well, it's just, it's an opportunity while you're looking at changing this anyway to possibly have changed that as well. I'm just curious about your whether this is, we can assume that this is an intention to affirm that that paragraph is actually applicable to us. Is that correct?
Madam President?
Yeah,
I'm wondering if this is,
Director Fimmel.
we have a bylaws committee, and I'm wondering if this isn't something that the bylaws committee should consider. Mr. Linefsky would have to address that.
Okay, we're getting a little far afield. The motion before you is simply to change board member exchanges to member board. If Director McAdam wishes to make some other changes, then you need to put forward a motion so that we can address that. I think we're confusing.
I'm not suggesting any changes, Madam President. I'm only asking us to say, we are changing this bylaw, and it's a question about, does that mean that we are affirming everything that's here? That's just what I would like to assure myself of.
Okay. The only thing that we are speaking to and voting on today is the highlighted parts of the script. Understood? Director McAdam? Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions? Okay. The motion before you is to amend bylaws Article 5, titled Board of Directors, Section 5, titled Meetings of the Board, as highlighted. Director or Secretary Lineski, will you please take the roll call vote?
Yes. Vice President Agi.
Yes.
Treasurer Akins. Treasurer Akins.
Yes.
Director Collins.
Yes.
Director Fimmel.
Yes.
Director McAdam.
Yes.
Director Nowakowski.
Yes.
Director Wilson.
Yes.
I vote yes. President Lear.
Yes.
It's 9-1 for the affirmative.
The motion passes its first reading. Okay, announcements. The next board member board exchange, it's going to take me a while, will be on May 9th, 2022 at 9 a.m. at the Sundial Auditorium right here. The next meeting of the Board of Directors will be on May 26th, 2022, 9 a.m. Sundial Auditorium. Director Collins.
Thank you. At this time, I would like to say thank you to Teresa Serrano and all her crew. I mean, the shows they put on Wednesday and the things they had to get ready and tear down and get ready for bingo, you know, everything, and then the Sunday shows, and these were fantastic. So I want to give a thank you to Alan and Mike and Dave, Annie, Maureen, Mike Eggy, and Terry Jenkins. They just did a wonderful job, and I think that's warranted that we thank all of them.
Thank you. There being no further business, and without objection, this meeting is adjourned. Don't forget to turn your cell phones back on. Thank you.
This is a copyrighted production of the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated and is intended for the sole purpose of informing our Recreation Center members. Any duplication, copying, transmission, broadcast, or use, including electronic and social media, is strictly prohibited without the prior written consent from the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated. Thank you for watching.